What happens when you combine one of the best directors of all time, an Oscar-winning script, and one of the best collections of actors of the 21st century? You get The Departed. And today it is attempting to take the title of world's greatest movie from the current champion, Blood Diamond. Let's start with a quick review of The Departed. If you haven't watched my review of Blood Diamond, feel free to go back and take a look. The concept of The Departed is simple. It's cops versus criminals, and each team has an informant working for them. Jack Nicholson plays Frank Costello, the psychotic head of Boston's Irish mob, who's inspired by the real-life criminal Whitey Bulger. Costello groomed Matt Damon's character, Staff Sergeant Colin Sullivan, to feed him information about the state police, ensuring he can go around being batshit crazy. The cops are headlined by Martin Sheen as Captain Queenan, Alec Baldwin as Captain Ellery, and of course, Mark Wahlberg as the masshole Staff Sergeant Dingham. Their inside man is Billy Costigan, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. I told you this cast was loaded.
Costigan is the perfect person to infiltrate Costello's gang. He feels a higher calling to do good, and thanks to a complicated childhood, he seamlessly fits in with the criminals. Naturally, it becomes a race to see who can sniff out who first. If that isn't dramatic enough, they both fall in love with the same psychiatrist, Dr. Madeline Madden, played by Vera Farmiga. My take on Farmiga is she's talented, but falls under that category of actors whose names I can never remember. In fact, I've had to look it up 3 times since I started making this. Dr. Madden ends up in the middle of a love triangle between our 2 lead characters. I'm usually not a fan of love triangles, but I don't mind this one, mostly because it's not treated as a big deal in the film. It's more of a secondary concern that each guy is banging, or trying to bang the same woman. The thing that matters most is figuring out who the rat is, not finding out who the dad is. The best part of the movie is the parallels between Billy Costigan and Officer Sullivan. Both are under immense stress throughout the film. Costigan deals with the fact that the people he runs around with would cut him into little pieces if they knew who he was, by turning to drugs. I would argue Sullivan has it worse. He gives off an image of confidence, but has become an empty husk of a person from the constant need to lie about who he is. This leads to him being impotent in the bedroom, a fate some would say worse than death. One of the reasons Sullivan seemed to struggle more was having to deal with Frank Costigan for his entire life. Frank acted as a father figure to Sullivan, but not the "I'll teach you to ride a bike" kind. It was more of the "you will do what I say or I'll get the belt" parenting style. I think some fair advice for any parents out there is to do the opposite of what any of Nicholson's characters would do. Another reason I love this movie is the ending. It takes a lot to surprise me, and the scene with Leo on the elevator was a top 5 what the f just happened moment, and then just kept getting crazier and crazier. Whenever I would show this movie to people, it was always dead quiet, other than a couple of initial gasps. In a world where movies are starting to feel more and more formulaic, it's refreshing to watch a film that isn't afraid to swerve from audience expectations. The Departed isn't perfect though. Let's be honest, it's obvious Leo's character is the informant. Imagine you're Costello. You discover you have a snitch in your crew. The vast majority of your guys are people you've known for years, if not decades. The one outlier is an ex-police cadet you've only known for a few months, who happens to show up right before they discover there was a rat. I understand you are constantly using drugs, but you need to do better, Frank. The second big issue has to do with the interaction between Billy and Sullivan after Costello is out of the picture. Sullivan is moments away from giving Costigan his life back, but at the last minute, Leo's character discovers Sullivan was the other rat. Instead of playing it cool and waiting for the right moment to arrest Sullivan, he runs out of the building revealing he knows the truth. I can't think of a reason he would tip his hand like that. It's stated how Billy Costigan is a genius and could have had any career he wanted, so why would he make such a boneheaded move? The answer, of course, is to make the story more interesting, and it does lead to the most satisfying pistol whip in cinema history, but I wish we had gotten there differently. Now for the hard part, deciding which film is better. We'll break it up into categories, and the film that wins the most gets the title of world's greatest movie. Round 1, Leo vs. Leo. It's like fighting fire with fire. The only thing that can take down a Leo is another Leo. Both of these films came out the same year, and actors can only be nominated once per award at the Oscars, meaning he couldn't be nominated for both performances. Blood Diamond ended up being the choice, but I disagree. His performance in Blood Diamond was solid, but that role was easier than the one in The Departed. In Blood Diamond, he plays a badass with an emotionally scarred exterior, but a gooey, kind-hearted center, hidden underneath. A character you see in a lot of action films. His character in The Departed can be solemn, agitated, and vulnerable all in the span of 10 minutes. And because Billy Costigan is a more unique character, winner The Departed. Round 2, every other cast member. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Djimon Hounsou is one of my favorite actors. If I ever become a studio exec, I'm gonna cast him in every movie I can. But he's not enough to fight off the juggernaut of a cast that makes up The Departed. Winner The Departed. Round 3, Best Special Effects. Both films have key moments involving a bunch of people getting shot, but Blood Diamond had more, and despite not being an expert on the subject, I have to say it looked more realistic than the scenes in The Departed. I'm assuming most of the special effects budget for The Departed went to the scene where Nicholson's character whipped out his junk in front of Matt Damon. The prosthetic pecker isn't enough though. Winner, Blood Diamond. Round 4, Best Directing. This is an easy one. Martin Scorsese has every accolade a director can dream of, including an Oscar for Best Director, which he earned for The Departed. But nothing is as remarkable as getting a good performance out of Mark Wahlberg.
I hear you whispering. Planning on stealing something?
No, ma'am, we're not.
Plan on murdering me in my sleep?
What? No.
It's as difficult as teaching a fish to do origami. Calling it a miracle doesn't do it justice. All I can say is, winner The Departed. Round 5, Best Tunes. If you've heard one soundtrack of Martin Scorsese, you've heard them all. He does throw in a Dropkick Murphys song just in case the viewer forgets the film takes place in Boston. But other than that, the score doesn't really stand out. Blood Diamond went a different route. It's filled with original songs that invoke a range of emotions, and I've always believed in rewarding originality. Winner, Blood Diamond. Round 6, Best Quotes. In my original review of Blood Diamond, I said there weren't many great quotes, but a few comments respectfully pointed out that's not the case. And after some self-reflection, I totally agree. Some of the best are,
sometimes I wonder, will God ever forgive us for what we've done to each other? And I look around and I realize God left this place a long time ago.
it's a bit dramatic, but it's effective.
Thanks for breaking my TV, bro.
Possibly useful.
Help me out. Off the record.
Well, off the record, I like to get kissed before I get huh?
Don't we all, Leo? Don't we all? I had no trouble finding great quotes from The Departed. Almost every line from Dingham deserves to be on a t-shirt.
Maybe not. Maybe yourself. My theory on feds is they're like mushrooms. Feed them shit and keep them in the dark. Girls have a good day.
Families are always rising or falling in America, am I right?
Who said that?
Hawthorne.
What's the matter, smartass? You don't know any Shakespeare? This is unbelievable. Who put the cameras in this place?
Oh, who the are you?
I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
Anyone who has worked has wanted to use some of his lines on their coworkers. And because of that, The Departed wins. Round 7, Best Scenery. Boston is a charming city, but doesn't stand a chance against the lush, rolling forests in Blood Diamond. Winner, Blood Diamond. Round 8, Best Life Lesson. Blood Diamond taught me that diamonds are a scam, and that our purchases have ramifications thousands of miles away. The Departed taught me to avoid adult theaters at all costs. A fair lesson, but not as altruistic. Winner, Blood Diamond. Round 9, Better Villain. Wouldn't you know it, we're all tied going into the last round. Both Blood Diamond and The Departed have memorable antagonists. The main bad guy for Blood Diamond is, in my opinion, Captain Poison. Yes, that is his actual name. Some would argue the Colonel, or if you're pretentious, Greed, are the true villains. One of my many rules is that the guy that has an eye patch and kidnaps children is always the primary antagonist. And for The Departed, I think we can all guess who the main villain is. Captain Poison and Frank Costello have more in common than you might think. They both love kids, have an interest in human anatomy, and they each have a passion for eccentric attire. They do differ in the gravity of their crimes, though. I think it's fair to say Captain Poison has done more evil. Frank is a psycho, but his actions never warranted an intervention from NATO. However, I think Frank is a more well-rounded character. He balances his murderous tendencies with a love of the arts, for instance. And he manages to be funny while also being terrifying. The scene where he impersonates a rat is fantastic. I can't help but laugh no matter how many times I watch it. I have to give the nod to The Departed. We have a new champion. The Departed has taken the title as the world's greatest movie. For now. But Blood Diamond did put up a good fight, so I'm giving it the title as best movie that takes place in Africa. It's better than nothing. Do you agree with the results? And which movie do you think should go against The Departed for next time? And finally, thanks for watching.